I think that the highlight in the past year is the institutional adoption of Bitcoin and the maturation of the asset class, along with the education of millions and millions of people as to why they might want digital property, what is a digital commodity, and what's its place in the macro economy. Now, to be clear, I still think we're very early, but that phrase, there are decades when nothing happens, and you know, weeks when decades happen. It really refers to paradigm shifts, and if you think about the paradigm shift when automobiles arrived, there's the famous snapshot in New York City where there's just a bunch of horse and buggies, and 10 years later, it's all cars. And in that 10 years, you adopted it. And I remember, standing once on the Pantheon and or on the Acropolis, and I'm like taking a photo and about to post it, and I think to myself, what's different about this? And I think, well, last time I was here, maybe a decade ago, I had no smartphone, I had no iPhone, there was no Facebook, there was no Instagram, you couldn't post it. There were no, digital photography didn't exist. So a decade goes by, and you're like, you're trying to remember. Yeah, you remember back in college. I went to college. We didn't have laptops, you know.
Yeah.
So when I was in
Yeah.
college, there were no laptops, and I thought, well, what if I'd had a spreadsheet when I was doing engineering? I went with an HP 15C calculator, and we had notebooks, and we wrote down 20 pages of calculations in a notebook with the calculator. And I remember seeing people saying, well, you got a calculator? We use slide rules. And you fast forward a decade and people have laptops. You fast forward another decade, they have internet. You fast forward another decade, they've got YouTube and simulations. And now you're starting to question whether or not you even needed to go to college at all. Maybe you could have just sat at home. So every decade, there's some profound paradigm shift. And the thing that hits you about a paradigm shift is it's such an out of the blue idea that no one can conceive of why you would even want it. So, it took a while before people thought maybe radio waves have a place, right? Or maybe electricity has a place in the world, and why would I want a railroad? But I think now we're staring at this paradigm shift of digital energy. And why would I want to move a block of $1 billion of something from point A to point B through cyberspace in a split second with instant final settlement, right? Initially, if you roll the clock back a decade, we didn't have it. Every financial crisis we've had, right, in the history of the world, and we've had 10,000 of them. There have been 10,000 currency collapses, from the Lydians to the Athenians to the Spartans to the Romans to the Venetians, to the Brits multiple times, to the Carthaginians. You could just go on, and the Persians, and go on and on and on and on. And the history is full of examples of an empire rises, someone mints a currency, the successors or the children of the conqueror debase the currency, the grandchildren debase it more, the great-grandchildren forget how they actually got the power, they spend everything, go wacky crazy. Pretty soon the economy collapses, you can't pay your soldiers, they all defect, and the barbarians come over the gate and they take everything, including your debased gold. They melt it down, they purify it, they mint their own coin, and the cycle starts again. That's literally taken place 10,000 times. When von Schliemann dug up ancient Troy, he dug up like 19 ancient Troys. He found 19 cities buried under each city. Everybody said, good place to build a city. They would build it. They would rise over a couple hundred years. They would crash and burn. 200 years would go by. Someone else comes along and says, wow, good place to build a city. We do it again. We do it again. We do it again. That's the history of money. And that's the history of economics. Along comes Satoshi, and we've got the white paper, and, January 3rd, 2009, we launched this little monetary virus or this idea virus. And it kind of burns very, very low level for a while, and people aren't sure of it. It's a gimmicky thing, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and waiting for, well, why would you need it? And you had to be a visionary to kind of need it or get it. If you lived in Argentina and your currency collapsed, and you remember the currency collapsing, or if you live, we're in this great reset, if you will. People are questioning currency. They're questioning their political thoughts. They're questioning stores of value, and every conventional model, the 60-40 bond model, it's broken. Bonds, for example, are down 20% in the same year where stocks are down 20%. Okay, so that never happened for 20 years. So why does that happen? Because when you drive interest rates to zero, if you can't drive interest rates negative, then there's no way to get bonds to go up. So what we've got is the 60-40 models are broken. Conventional ideas like, oh, I'm just going to store my value by buying property, that's kind of broken in a lot of places. People are losing faith in just investing in property when you see the gyrations of this property. The conventional idea, I'm going to buy S&P index stocks. Well, the S&P is slightly up. NASDAQ is flat over the last 2 years. It blasted up and then it blasted down. So what you've got is a lot of people questioning all their premises, and rising through that chaos is a new idea. And the new idea is, what if I can encrypt energy? What if I can encrypt money such that nobody on earth, no government can debase it, no corporation can steal it? I don't trust anybody. People don't trust governments, right? We're at an all-time low in public trust of institutions. It doesn't matter what government. And they don't trust companies. And why? For good reason, because companies are influenced by governments, right? Right? If you're in America, you're certainly not going to trust a company in China. And if you're in China, you're certainly not going to trust a company in America. And then, a lot of people that don't trust domestic companies, and the Europeans and the Australians don't trust American companies either. So there's a lot of lack of trust. So if I can't trust that, then what can I trust? Where am I going to put my money? I'm going to do a slight detour here, Brian, but this is very interesting that I want to share with your listeners, which is I track the financial markets since we embarked on our Bitcoin strategy. So here is what's happened since August 10th, 2020, when we adopted Bitcoin as a treasury reserve asset. Bitcoin is up 65%. MicroStrategy stock, and MicroStrategy's bought almost $4 billion, not quite, but nearly $4 billion of Bitcoin. MicroStrategy stock is up 66%. So we are tracking slightly ahead of Bitcoin. The S&P is up 14%. The NASDAQ is up 4%. Whoa, 4%. All of big tech is up 4%. Gold is down 18%. And, bonds, the ultra safe bonds, long-term bonds, down 18%. So in terms of asset classes, the crazy volatile Bitcoin is the best performing of all those major assets. And then you can say to yourself, well, I'm just going to invest in stocks. Okay, let's look at big tech. Google's up 37%, Apple's up 32%, Microsoft's up 16%, Amazon is down 22%, Facebook is down 45%, and Netflix is down 52%. Okay, little MicroStrategy, no one ever heard of, up 66%. Would you have guessed that a mid-sized software company, low growth mid-sized software company nobody ever heard of, would outperform Google in the last 2 years by a factor of 2? And so last point I make, we compete against companies 100 times as big as us. Oracle, 100 times bigger than us. They're up 25%, IBM's up 3%, Salesforce is down 23%, SAP's down 47%. Okay, so what is the lesson of that? The lesson is we're in the middle of chaos. There is no place to hide. Your choice is, you could buy gold, but gold is dead metal and it's just getting ground into the dirt, right? I can seize your gold. Gold is the half-life of money, and gold is 35 years. And you can't put gold on 8 billion iPhones. So the problem is there's no tech in gold, and it was a good idea in the 19th century, and it's centralized. Governments can seize it, and the gold miners keep debasing it. They keep mining more gold, right? In the best year, you get 2% more. In the worst year, someone seizes a bunch of gold, dump it on the market, you get more than 2%. So people are looking for a safe haven. What's it going to be?